back in my Bible in Genesis, looking at things from a new lens. So I am in Genesis 19 when Sodom and Gomorrah is destroyed. And this part always got me tripped up. When we look at Genesis 19:8, when Lot um, when Lot has the angels come to his door and the immoral men come knocking down the door because they want to be with these men that have come to visit Lot. And Lot responds by saying, "Look, I have two virgin daughters. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do with them as you wish. But please leave these men alone, for they are my guests and under my protection." I always thought that that was so strange, that Lot was so willing to give up his daughters. But I think that this is an interesting um, an interesting introduction to the way that Lot has been corrupted and the way that Lot has chosen to lead his family. And we see it unfold as we progress through the rest of Lot's story after Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. And then shortly thereafter, we hear that Lot's wife is turned to a pillar of salt because she looked back. And that is an indicator of her looking back towards her old life and her life in Sodom and Gomorrah. And so we already see that there is some inconsistencies with the way that this household is being ran. And then furthermore, after that, we hear about when Lot and his two daughters go to the cave. The daughters getting Lot drunk to sleep with him because they're worried about having descendants. They're worried about having children. And that's further indication about how Lot was leading his household. And I think it's just so important to remember the man's role in leading the household and the man's role in protecting his family and guarding his family from the sin that surrounds them. So we know that Sodom and Gomorrah was full of immorality, was full of sin, was full of lust, was full of just chaos. And instead of the Holy Spirit, and that's why God decided to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And so it's just such a good reminder about how important it is for the man to be leading his household, because leading his household and protecting his household from the sin that surrounds it, because we see how that unfolds in the family, in the children, and the marriage with the wife. And so I think that that was such a good perspective to see when reading the Sodom and Gomorrah story. I was always kind of confused, but now it makes sense that if Lot was a man who was in a city that was full of sin and he was surrounded by sin, then his perspective and discernment would have been skewed, and he would offer his virgin daughters to those men, and he would have a wife that would look back at her old life, and he would have daughters that would treat him immorally to continue their descendants. And so I think it's important to remember as men how to guard your family, how to protect your family, and also what happens when you're not protecting your family and guarding your family. The repercussions, the generational repercussions that has.